Hi everyone, my name is Rod Cole, and today I'm going to talk to you about the adventure that is yours. There's a quote out there that talks about life's an adventure, and it goes into detail about, when you have these goals, you have these obstacles, just see life as an adventure like it's fun and how you overcome that. But that's not what I'm going to talk to you about today though. I agree, life is an adventure, but I'm going to give you a different perspective today because there's a lot of us out there who are suffering that it's hard for us to see that life is an adventure. It's hard for us to see that life is fun. We don't know what our goals are. These obstacles are coming our way. We're not getting it. We don't understand how to overcome these obstacles. We don't even understand why these obstacles even come our way. We're suffering. We're struggling. So a lot of us are that way. So we can't even get our mindset on saying that life's an adventure and it's all fun and stuff because it's not fun for us right now. When we're born, we're all born miracles. Some of us don't believe it, but we all are miracles. The fact that you even exist makes you a miracle. You can think, you can see, whatever your situations you're living, you're a miracle, period. But it even goes even deeper than that though, because when we're born, we're all born the same way. We're born in different environments, different cultures, different countries, whatever it is, but we're all born the same way. And you know what that is? We don't know anything. When we're born, we know nothing. The only reason we know something is because the environment, or the adventure I'm going to call it, shapes us to who we are. We're told who we are. Our adventure tells us who we are. Your parents, your schools, the experience you have, this goes on your whole life. Not just from childhood, but it goes on through your adulthood. You are told and presented who you are. And this could be a good thing, or it could be a bad thing, depending on what your adventure is telling you who you are. And it doesn't mean you can't go against it, because you can, but your adventure could be telling you that you're not a worthwhile human being. That could be part of your adventure, and you know what, you believe it. It's not true, but you believe it. I know when I was a kid, I was like 12 years old, and I'm walking down the street, and a bunch of older kids who could drive, they yell at their car and they start calling me all these names. Well, it hurt my feelings. The fact that they can call me all these names, you know what it told me? It told me that maybe I'm not a worthwhile human being. That's what it told me at that time. Now, it's not true, and it's up to me to figure out how not to feel like a worthwhile human being in this adventure that I'm in. But that's what I felt like. There was another time when I was going to a grocery store, and at this time I was 16 years old, and I was shopping for some food. And for whatever reason, this older man was following me. This older, hostile man was following me and making me uncomfortable. And basically what it did, it sent a message to me, another message, that maybe I'm not a worthwhile human being. This person is following me. This person doesn't like me, whatever it is. These are the messages that you can receive in your environment. You don't have to believe it, but you can receive this in your environment. So the point I'm making is that, this is the adventure that some of us are in. Some of us are in this adventure where that life could be telling us, or that we're not worthwhile, which is not even true. You're not valuable. None of it's true. So the point is, your adventure could be teaching you against yourself. We don't choose this adventure that we're in. The adventure chose us. There's learning lessons here, and I'll go into that in just a minute. But you don't choose it. It's you. You're born into it. We're all born equal, like I mentioned before. We're just miracles. We're born equal. We're born the same. It's just that we're all tossed immediately from day one into these adventures, and these adventures are teaching us about ourselves. And these lessons come from generations and generations, and here you are accepting this information, or whatever it is about yourself that may or may not even be true. The adventure that some of us are in, we have to make a stand in these adventures. So when something doesn't feel right, when something goes against our value, you have to make a stand. You don't buy into it and say, okay, I guess I'm not valuable because it feels all these things are coming towards me that says I'm not valuable. Somebody yelling at me when they come out, when they drive by on the street, I'm minding my own business, they yell at me, that makes me feel not valuable. But that's the time I make a stand, and I have to say to myself, wait a second, I'm in this adventure, and these folks that drove by treated me as if I'm not valuable, but guess what? I am valuable. And that's when you make a stand with yourself and you say to yourself, I'm valuable. The gentleman who's following me, the older guy who's following a kid in a grocery store trying to intimidate a kid, that's the time where I tell myself that I'm valuable. I don't know how to handle this older person. I'm 16 years old. I don't know how to handle that. But I got to tell myself that I'm valuable. That's the lesson in here. You tell yourself, you have to tell yourself you're valuable, because there's a lot of things in some of our worlds that's going to tell us we're not valuable, and you can't go along with it. You've got to make a stand, and you make a stand with yourself and say you're not valuable. And then you can make a stand with others, and you can present you're valuable. I remember a while ago, someone had presented to me and said, you know what, you're not confident. You're not a confident person. And I made a stand. I had to make a stand. And I said it to myself, yes, I am. And then I made a stand to the person, I am confident. And then they repeated, no, you're not. And I repeat again, I'm confident. There's no compromise. I don't compromise on that. I don't compromise on my value. I know who I am. I don't compromise on my value. I'll compromise on other stuff, learn and grow. But when my environment is trying to teach me against my value, I make a stand. I don't compromise. What I want to point out to you though is that there's 3 lessons in this. First of all, we're all equal. We're all equal. It's just that we all have different experiences, different adventures. But just because someone else's adventure is different from yours doesn't mean that they're more valuable than you, because they're not. See, my experiences as a black male is going to be different from somebody else's experiences. But that doesn't mean that somebody else is more valuable than me, because they're not. Or let's say I don't have education. I'm going to have experience as a person who doesn't have as much education as someone who does. That doesn't mean my experience is less valuable, because it's not. For me, in our ventures, there's 3 tests or 3 lessons. You know, and it's from, and I believe it's from life, it's from God, you know, whatever it is, there's this test that helps us to move towards our value, but it also helps us to move towards this level of peace within ourselves. So one of the tests is, you know, the ultimate goal is to like and love yourself. That's the ultimate goal. It doesn't matter what your adventure is or not. You've got to learn how to love and like yourself. Sometimes some of us are in environments where, you know, like when the people drove by in a car and they're yelling at me, it could teach me not to like myself. But if I make a stand within myself, then, and say, you know, I like myself regardless of what's going on out there, then that's the first test. And I do it over and over and over again, and I pass that test and I keep going forward. But there's a second part of the test, I believe, which is that not only do you have to like and love yourself, but you gotta like and love your neighbor and forgive your neighbor. So, and it's a hard thing to do, but when somebody, like a gentleman follows me in a store and he's hostile and tense, I'm just a kid, I still have to somehow like myself in all this. I have to tell myself, but I have to forgive this person. Somehow forgive this person and move to like and love this person and say, you know, let's say this person just doesn't understand. This person understands me. This person has a misunderstanding about life and our places in life. But that's not my problem. You know, I have to move towards peace and love. I have to love myself, and then I have to forgive and love this person, even though people hurt us sometimes. You know, we hurt ourselves sometimes. We have to forgive ourselves sometimes too. But the goal is, we can't get caught up in this constant pain, hostility. We've got to move towards self and love. I think we're all put here, like I said, we're a miracle. We're put here in love. That's why we're here. We're put here in love. Whether it's life or God, whatever you believe, we're put here in love. And to get closer to what we're meant to be in this life, or to get closer to our Creator or God, we have to be of love. All of us are created of love. I'm created of love. You're created of love. The person that hurt you is created of love. We all are created of love. You know, there's no difference. So we have to move in that direction of love of self and that person, forgiveness, so we can move towards this idea of love that life has for us or God has for us, which gives us peace and real power. The third thing is, once you move to this idea of love of yourself, love of your neighbor, you know, forgiveness of your neighbor, forgiveness of yourself, then you can move towards doing what you're meant to be, which is to be your best self and to have an impact in your world, because this is why we're here. And then what's interesting is that this doesn't just goes for you and I. Let's say you and I are underprivileged. This doesn't just apply for us. It applies for those who have more, or those who are privileged in some way, because the rules are the same. Love yourself, love your neighbor, forgive your neighbor, forgive yourself, and then put your best self out there. Last year I met this really interesting man. I was at Home Depot with my family, and he was with his beautiful wife, and we were talking, and turns out he's been married for over 40 years. And he puts his hand on my shoulder and he says to me, we don't look like one another. We don't look like each other. And we don't agree on politics, and we don't have to agree on anything. But we're all Americans, or we're all people, and we sit here and we respect one another. We can still have a conversation. And he says, you and I just proved that today. And we shook hands, and then he went about his business. I thought it was so powerful because we don't have to look like each other. We don't have to agree with each other. We don't have to share the same politics. None of that. But we can still respect one another, have conversation, and appreciate one another. And if you can do those 3 things, guess what? I don't care if you're suffering, struggling, whatever your situation is, your life will be an adventure for you also.